Whoops, I forgot to start recording this. Okay, but anyways, we just went over the 4 heroes: Midnight, Sir Winston, Ball and Chain, and Bloodspike. And I know what you're gonna say. I know you're thinking this already in your mind. Are there any more heroes? And yes, there are a lot more heroes. So I own this board game. I own all parts of the board game itself. There are the Order heroes or the Unchained heroes, and this is only 4 of the Unchained heroes. There came out with a hero pack, and like a boss pack and minion packs and stuff. So they added stuff to the game. Now, the Orcs Must Die board game was a Kickstarter campaign, and the game itself was made by Peterson Games with association with Riot Entertainment. Robot Entertainment. Associated with Robot Entertainment, and they made this game as a Kickstarter campaign to Orcs Must Die Unchained. So if you paid into that, and you guys, like, the highest tier, you guys can look it up on Kickstarter, but I think the highest tier gave you some Cthulhu stuff as well, which is a pretty fun game. Okay, cool. So basically the way this works is you got your hero, right? Let's say we pick Midnight. We got our map set up. So we got like a rift, like a room, another room, another room. Let's go ahead and these all lock into place. Another one of those things. Shadow Blight kind of coded all that. So let's just pretend that this is our map, right? And here's our hero, Midnight. We get to start wherever we want. Starting here in the rift. You got your character sheet here with your abilities. I think Bloodspike is one of the coolest. You could technically copy this and everybody could play the same character. So you could have like 4 Bloodspikes. Is it overpowered? I don't know. But you know, you can do whatever you want because it's a board game, right? So the whoever runs the board game rules. All right, so you got a weapon that you can choose. Well, I guess I should say this first. This is probably the first thing that you need to know is that there's 3 difficulties. So you have, or 3 tiers, I guess. So you have white, green, and blue. In the white tier, whenever you are on difficulty white, then the traps you get are white, the gear you get are white, and the weapon you get are white. So you have 3 tiers of weapon. You can't buy the white if you're on, or you can't buy the green if you're on the white tier. You can't buy the blue if you're on the green tier, kind of thing. So, but in order to upgrade your weapon, if you're on the blue tier, you have to purchase white, then green, then blue for your weapon. This game is essentially a dice rolling game, probability aspects of it. You know, it's not really that complicated as of a game, but there's quite a bit of rules to it. You know, it's pretty good. So you have enemies here. They have vulnerabilities. Your hero also has vulnerabilities, and what that means is it requires this dice to be rolled in order for damage to be received, whether it be by the enemy to you or you to the enemy. You also have move speed, and you have an ultimate so that you can use. Once you use it, it goes on cooldown, and the only way to get it off cooldown is to spend skulls, which you use to purchase traps and gear. So traps could look like this. Let's go ahead and place them out here. Let's flip them all over real quick. Throw some gear down. Flip those over real quick as well. Oh, somebody has... Oh, yeah. This cursed ring, for whatever reason, for me, it says it has no ID, but I think it works for... you know, for Shadow Blight. Anyways, this is what the traps look like. So the cost is on the top right, and then the difficulty tier of the trap is on the top left. And so you're going to spend, you know, skulls on this. Obviously, this is 0, which means that you can just throw this on the field if it's your turn, or if it's during your upkeep, you throw this on the field, throw this on the field. When an enemy takes damage from these traps, they go away because they are discarded. So you would just delete those. Delete. Okay, cool. There's this option here to lock the tiles. That way you don't accidentally click and drag the floor tiles or delete them, which is nice. And then at the next upkeep, you just replenish the shop, and you just keep going. Everybody starts out with 1 skull. There's 1 skull in the community pool as well that you can use to purchase traps. Whoever's a Rift Lord, there's a Rift Lord token here. This gets passed around every upkeep. And this Rift Lord token, if you have it, you make all the decisions, who the enemies attack, and that sort of, like who the minions attack. You basically get to make decisions when there are decisions to be made if you have the Rift Lord token. That passes around every upkeep. There are 3 upkeeps per difficulty because you have 3 waves. So at the beginning of wave 1 is an upkeep, 2, 3 are upkeeps. And then you go to the next difficulty, wave 1, 2, and 3. Next difficulty, wave 1, 2, and 3. All right. If you play with bosses are over here. You can spawn them. Some of the bosses will come out at the beginning of the, or after the last wave on the 3rd level is this guy. This is the first wave of the 3rd level, and they have their difficulties as well. So yeah, green is going to be in the second tier difficulty, so he comes on the first wave of the third level, and blue is the last tier of difficulty here. So you have some of the enemies are also bosses as well. You have Black Paw as a boss, you have Ball and Chain as a boss, Tundra as a boss, and that sort of thing. And they all have their difficulties. And you got these hell bosses. I never played with the hell boss, so I'm not exactly sure what it does. But yeah, it's a thing, so that's cool. All right, let's see what else. So we can go. So with this, we would spawn armies. So for the first difficulty, normally you only have one army card spawning. So you would do this, and you just click and drag them over to wherever they start. So let's say that this is start number 1, 2 is Tiki Lights, and 3 is Stone Halls. So you'd have 1 bear and 2 soldiers, right? You can click and drag the soldiers around and move them as they need to move. And so this is going to be for the first difficulty, and so that card gets used. And this is a 2-player. You can choose up to 4 players, so I'll switch it over to 4. We'll spawn. We'll have 3 bears and 3 soldiers. Click and drag all of those guys over there as well, and those guys will be here. There's going to be more information about this from the creator who made all this, with like what to do and how to actually group everything up together. So that's going to be your second, but of course some of those are already going to be moved in. So let's go ahead and move these guys in. They only move 1 tile per enemy, so we're going to go and discard that. I'm going to switch another deck up. So this is going to be the end of essentially the first difficulty here. So we got 3 crossbowmen and 3 satyrs. Satyrs move. They move 1 tile for right now, but once they've moved 2 tiles, they're going to start spawning in the next tile over. And you get your 3 crossbowmen, 3 satyrs, 5 soldiers, 4 bears, and so this is going to be the first difficulty. And then after the first difficulty is completed, then you'll start the second difficulty, which will include an extra card. And then once you get to the final difficulty, you'll have 3 cards spawning all at once, and you'll have these guys spawning in their respective spawn locations. So you can have right here, you can have 1 spawning here, 1 spawning here, and they all move in towards the rift. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get rid of those guys. And let's get rid of those guys. And then as you increase in difficulty, these cards will disappear. So you disappear the decks. And what you do is you just right click on this and you click on clone. You'll clone that deck there. And then you'll clone this deck as well. And then you'll just grab this and you'll replenish the traps at the beginning of the second difficulty. You replenish the traps with the upgraded. And it's the same with the gear. And so now you got the upgraded stuff. And then if you have something from this, here, like for example, if you have this stack box in the rec room, and you want to purchase, well, you can only have 2 traps. So that's a support trap. And that is another trap there, right? Yeah, okay. So let's say this is your setup right now. You have this support trap here in the middle. Just kidding. It's not. Is it not? I thought it was. Okay. Never mind. All right, so you'd have the spring trap and you have the snack box. So they're both in here as you're fighting, and it becomes the next tier of difficulty, and you want one of these traps in here. Well, you got to delete one of these because you can only have 2 in there at once, and that's only if you're on 4 players. If you're on 2 or 3 players, you're going to have 1 trap in the room at once, but you basically have to remove 1 to add 1 if you're already at your max. Okay, next thing is minion cards. So minions do a white die roll, except for these guys could do red, blue, or purple. We'll go over the dice in a bit, but they do have their vulnerability here. This Dwarf Shaman, if an enemy is on the same tile, requires an additional sword plus whatever their vulnerability is to kill them. When you kill a regular guy, you get 1 skull. When you kill the big guys, you get 3 skulls. That sort of thing. So there's that. Okay, cool. Here's your maps. They have maps for you already. Of course, you can make your own. At the very end, there's like a thing to make your own. But essentially they show you what to do there. Okay, then we got the rules. They show you kind of everything here, minions, cards, all that good stuff. Game setup. So yeah, this is your rift points. That starts at 10, goes down to 0. Once it gets to 0, you lose. You can customizably start wherever you want, but I mean, it says 4, 3, and 2 players here. All right, let's see what's next. So yeah, we went over the Rift Lord. We went over the choose and place heroes. Yeah, game mode, difficulty, sure, game level, how to play. All right, so you start with the hero upgrade phase, which is your upkeep, basically. Minion phase, hero action phase, and your upkeep is separate, whatever. Hero upgrade phase, you boost the Rift Skull points. So whoever the Rift Lord is can throw all of their earned skulls into the Skull Rift pool. So that would be up here. So grab a skull, And we'll put that right here. So anybody during their purchasing phase can use a skull from the rift pool. And then you also start with one of your own. So that's how the game starts. But the only person that can put into the rift pool is the Rift Lord. To heal, you can heal if you're at the rift during the upgrade phase. You revitalize, which means you can discard 3 skulls per player on your team from the rift skull pool. And you can revitalize the team, which flips your ultimate token face up, and this is how you get your ultimate back. If you use it, you flip it back face up, and you also heal a rift point. That's when you also upgrade your weapon, and you purchase gear, and you place traps and support traps. So this is your action, basically your building phase, or your go break, if you want to call it that. Support traps can be placed inside. That's why I thought this, for whatever reason, the flip trap was support, but apparently not. And it also shows traps inside of the lava pit and inside of the rift room. Technically, can't do that unless you choose to do it. But in the rulebooks, it also states that you cannot do that. So that's why you see trap limit here is 0 for all of that. Okay, next. Minion movement, they all move in. Some maps will have like splits, or some map tiles will have splits, and they'll tell you what to do with that. The minion phase, all right, it's up here. So enemies already on the map move from their current. So they'll move in, then the next wave enters, then the trap fires, which means, theoretically, if you had, if you had a soldier here, for example, and you were allowing traps inside the rift room, he'd move in here, new enemies would spawn, traps would fire, and then he would enter the rift. So technically you could get away with putting traps in the rift room if your game master wants to play that way, which I do. Okay. And then there's also a bit of a discrepancy. If you look up the game and Peterson himself and a couple of other people playing the game in its conceptualizing, they made it to where you had to be in the rift room in order to purchase traps. However, that's not the case. In order to purchase traps for a room, you have to be in the room itself. So if you want to put a trap in Tiki Lights, you have to be in Tiki Lights to place the trap, I should say. Let's see what else we got. So new wave enters the map, traps fire, minions enter the rift, minions attack. So with this, it says up here that you can swap out enemies for other enemies. That's if you run out of miniatures, which we'll never do because this is an online, or this is a computer game. So we'll never do that. And minions attack. So the minions attack in groups, right? So we had, as you saw, we had like a group of like soldiers and bears and stuff. So whenever the enemies attack, let's bring this guy up here, and we're just gonna copy him and paste. So let's say we have this guy, and we have a couple of crossbowmen. Let's say that Midnight is in this room and Bloodspike is in this room. Okay, so you have 2 different groups of people, soldiers and crossbowmen. Range units can attack in an adjacent square. So right now, who's in threat is Bloodspike and Midnight from soldiers and crossbows. If Sir Winston here, who is the Rift Lord, if he wants to have Bloodspike tank all the damage, he'll say both groups attack Bloodspike. Or he can say soldiers attack Midnight, crossbowmen attack Bloodspike. So whoever the Rift Lord is gets to decide how the enemies are split up. But the enemies always attack in groups. So all 3 of these guys will attack together, and then all 3 of these guys will attack together. Meaning it's a good idea to like get rid of individual units to make the groups smaller. That way you have less dice to be rolled overall and less probability of getting hit, especially if you have a vulnerability of 2, which Bloodspike has a vulnerability of 2 against greater minions and bosses. Instead of vulnerability of 1 sword, he has 2. But sword is the most common dice to be rolled versus any of the other ones like brain or speed. Okay. However, having both brain and speed as a vulnerability, or brain or speed, just kind of means you're about on the same playing field as probability of being hit. So, all right. So then stun minions stand back up. So the hero action phase, when they stun a minion, they stay. They can't move and they can't attack until the next turn. And that's another thing that if a trap fires on an enemy, the Rift Lord gets to decide, or if it has a room of enemies, the Rift Lord gets to decide which enemy gets affected by the trap. If there's more than one. So they could decide whether or not to do a stun one. Okay, so you have your attack and move. You can do one or the other. You can do both, but you can do them in any order. So you can move and attack or attack and move. You cannot move, attack, move. You can recover from stun after that. Special actions, special tiles allow you to do things. For example, your lava lake. Lava lake states that if let's see, Midnight's here and Soldier's here. If Midnight wants to insta kill the Soldier without having to dice roll and have the probability, Midnight can cost 1 health and insta kill the Soldier down there. And then you'll need 2 heroes for one of the bigger guys, and you'll have 1 health each killing a big guy. So a big guy's technically worth 2 health, like the bear here. So you'd have to expend 1 health for Blood Spike, 1 health for Midnight. Bear insta dies on Lava Lake, and that's when that happens because it's also part of your attack phase, right? For your special actions, though, you can move, attack, and special action. So you can use your ultimate ability as well as attack and move. Cool. And then you have your upkeep phase. This happens every turn. Like I said, every level. I guess it technically happens at the end of the level, not at the beginning. So you'll start wave 1 without 1, and then you'll have it at the end of wave 3. So the upkeep phase is level preparation. Only if it's time for a new level to start. It calls it a level and what it means is a difficulty. So you'd prep for the next difficulty, if it is to start for the next one, which is to repair the shop with the new tier of traps and gear, and to actually, yeah, that's all you would do. Yeah, okay. Oh, and to get the army spawn into the additional spawn points. Okay, then you have the Courage Skulls, which is only in a rival game. I've never played Rivalry, so I don't know much about it. You have Resurrection, where your heroes come back. This comes back at the end of every round. So if you're in round 1 or wave 1 and level 1, if you're in wave 1, level 1, your guy dies. First of all, you take 3 rift points, and second of all, when your guy dies, you come chill over here until the end of the wave, or until the end of the wave, and then at the upkeep you come back. Okay. You have restock Rift Display Shop, like I mentioned earlier. During the upkeep, this will restock. So every wave that you only have a total of 10 items that you can do, plus your weapon to purchase as well. Weapons are pretty powerful, so I would recommend it. Oh yeah, and you also pass your Rift Lord token at the end of the wave, before the next one. All right, and then let's talk about the dice real quick. So let me grab this dice bag. So in this dice bag, we have several different colors of dice. We have red, purple, yellow, blue, green, and white. So the white dice, as you can see here, has 2 swords, a shield, brain, 2 blanks. This is your normal dice that you would roll. Your most likely dice that you would roll. And sword is more probability than either of the other 2. But if you combine the 2 like we have on Midnight, technically it's the same probability for this. This is where being the Rift Lord comes in handy of being able to choose what groups attack what. As I showed earlier in this minion card, the Shaman rolls red, which is a very high probability of sword. So you'd actually want the Shaman to attack someone like Midnight versus someone like Blood Spike, who would take more damage, who would be more likely to take damage from him. Bear has a white, or has a blue, and then Giant has a purple. The blue is a stun. The purple is brain, and then the yellow is, of course, speed. And then the green is either heal or you get skulls if you roll the green. You roll this in the Rift every turn during the heal portion of it. So you would roll this, and then you, of course, roll those as well. Now, like I said, enemies do attack in groups, and so for these 3 crossbowmen, for example, let's say they attack Blood Spike as Blood Spike is in their square. They would actually roll this at difficulty 1. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that. So all 3 of them would roll this. You get 1 sword, means Blood Spike took 1 damage. And then if they roll this, Blood Spike takes no damage. If you roll 2 of the same, or if you have a ×2, like here, we see that, it counts as a wild, so it can count as whatever you want. Of whatever any of these other ones are. The wild is the lightning bolt, so the wild, you can also roll that as well. And it says all that stuff here. The stunning a unit, or score a wild against an already stunned victim. So if you attack an enemy with a stun, and they're stunned already, then it counts as a wild, so you can do the damage. All right, stun results. Stun are special. For each stun rolled, you can stun 1 enemy of your choice. Lay a stunned enemy on its side. Stunned enemy will recover during the stun recovery segment of his turn. Stunned hero recovers on his own turn, but gives up either attack or move. Okay, so that's that. And that's kind of the important one. I'm pretty sure the stun doesn't do the damage itself because you don't have, yeah, it doesn't. You don't have the vulnerability for it, but it will stun you. So the bears can, if they roll the stun, they can also do damage to you as well. So yeah. Okay. Healing dice, you have hero minion, so lower the rift by 3 health if the hero dies. And then there you go, traps, cool. And that's basically all there is to it, dudes. Basically all there is to it. There's some boss stuff that I'm going to need to read up on because I've never played with bosses before. Or rivalry. Rivalry will be a thing in the future. Basically what it is you would take this and then you would like duplicate this next to it. And then you would have, I believe you would go through the rift to go into the other person's map. And then you would attack the other person. You couldn't do damage to the rift, but you can attack the other heroes. And then you go back into your rift to heal, and then back to fight and defend from the north side. So it's essentially opening another side, but the people only target you. There's one exception to most of this is the lion. The lion will not go into the rift. He will just track the players down and fight the players only. So yeah, there you guys go. There's essentially the game in and of itself. It's not too bad. Trapsburg is one of the best tiles to get. It makes the game pretty easy. You know, well, not like super easy, but at the start of each level, you draw traps from the deck and place 2, and the level would be the difficulty. And so you would just like, for example, you grab like this, the boom barrel, and another boom barrel, and you get it for free at the beginning of the level. And then once one of these is expended, they are replaced. Players cannot purchase traps for this, but they do get sent there. So. Oh, I guess I should say support traps go in between. So they don't count. You can only have one support trap in between tiles, but they don't count as part of the tile maximum trap cap itself. Cool. All right. All right. That being said, I'll make another update video for the channel itself, so you guys can so I can kind of cover my idea behind when we're going to be playing this game, where that's going to fall inside the schedule. It is completely playable as of right now. You can well, it's not like made available yet, but it will be soon for you guys. But technically you can play this as is. All the rules are there, all the mechanics are there, everything is there for this game to be played. It's very, very soon for you guys to be able to play this, and play your favorite heroes like Bloodspike. I mean, look at this guy. Just look at this. Against greater minions and bosses, your vulnerability is 2. And then before you attack, also kill lesser minions in your tile equal to the current level. If you imagine being at level 3 and having 4 blood spikes, and you just walk into a room and you kill 12 enemies at once, just using your ultimate. And you know what that means is because the ultimate costs 3 per, as long as you're killing 3 with your ultimate, you're making the money back as is, with the level 3 difficulty. And so you could essentially spam your ultimate if you have 4 blood spikes in a room, as long as there's enough enemies to do it. Then you'd kill them all. So, yeah, that could be kind of ridiculous. Let's take a look at Ball and Chain so you guys get an idea on that. As an action, refresh your ultimate by taking 2 damage. Pretty neat. Go down by 2, and this comes back, so that's kind of neat. Pick up 1 lesser minion in your tile and place it on your sheet as geared as its attack to yours, which is neat. Also, you may choose to apply incoming damage to it if this will kill it. You can only have 1 minion at a time. Cool. So you could take a soldier, a crossbow, a satyr, or a lion that vulnerability of 3 swords. And if 3 swords are rolled, instead of you taking those 3 swords, the lion takes 3 swords and dies. Also, it'll do 2 white damage, or any of these guys are 2 whites. So you'll add that to your attack, which is kind of cool. The weapons are pretty neat as well. So this one is just dice roll, but some of the weapons include the icons of other damage types. Traps do that the same. You know, they'll do other damage types, or they'll do healing. All right, let's take a look at Sir Winston real quick. Sir Winston, he's got this the sword. He gets a green die, which I believe will heal himself, not the enemy. But that's kind of cool. The green die allows you to get skulls for free, essentially. When you attack, you may change one blank result to a brain, which is pretty nice because if you roll a regular brain and you need a wild, turn a blank into a brain, and there you go. And then your ultimate at the start of the minion phase, choose one minion type. They do not move. Bum, 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 bum. They still attack, which is pretty sweet. And minion type is soldier, crossbowman, satyr. So if you have a bunch of one kind of minion on the board, then you can use your ultimate and keep them there. Of course, ultimates aren't the easiest thing to get back, but it's possible. And lastly, last but not least, Midnight. And this is for right now. I mean, there's plenty of other heroes that are actually in the game. As an action, spend 1 health to pick up your figure off the map and place it here. Return it to any tile in upkeep. It's essentially saving yourself from death. Maybe not one of the better ones, but okay. You essentially teleport when you use your ability, and you just go back somewhere else. So I don't know. That's not one of my favorite. Of course, I like offensive stuff a lot, so maybe it's more tactical, and people would find a use for it. Your ultimate, after you attack, double the value of each icon rolled, which is sweet after you attack. So if you don't get a good roll, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you get a sweet roll, bruh, and each blank becomes a sword, bruh, you already roll white. So you have like a 4 of 6 chance with the last tier of the weapon to be swords. 4 out of 6 chance for each one of those dice to be that, and then you could double it. You're gonna kill everything that has a vulnerability of sword, 100%. Which is giants. Basically, you're a giant killer. Not so much with the bear or the door shaman, but definitely a giant killer for sure. Of course, you could use it for the bear, because then you could have your 2 swords be a wild. So yeah, I guess you're a bear giant killer at that point. But anyways, cool. So that is the video.